Fishing line is a key factor for anglers' success during the open water season. Terry Tuma has more on this week's Channel 12 fishing tip.
Fishing line is extremely confusing to several anglers, no matter what species that they're pursuing in the summertime, open water fishing. And the reason being is that there's so many different products out on the market. And I just done a seminar, and of all the questions, it was fishing line, fishing line, fishing line after the conclusion of the seminar. And I visited with a friend of mine that was just in South Dakota. He was catching the walleyes, while the other two anglers in the boat weren't doing very well at all. And it boiled down to the wrong line. And let's just sort of briefly go over some of these lines that we're speaking of. And one, of course, is your fluorocarbon, becoming extremely popular. Fluorocarbon sinks. Fluorocarbon doesn't have a lot of stretch, so we want to use fluorocarbon for casting crankbaits, for instance, using it for leader material, and then also of plastics like wacky worms for bass fishing. The next is sort of a sensation. This is, I call it an in-between line. Has some stretch, extremely thin in diameter, and will pick up these real subtle bites no matter what species we're fishing. And then, of course, you've got your braid, which is, I don't want to say a new rate, but it's becoming extremely popular. Braid does not sink and it does not stretch, so we're going to have to use specific applications for using a braided line. You can also attach a fluorocarbon leader to it. There's several knots that you can utilize for that. And then, of course, the old standby is your mono line, and which, again, mono line has stretch to it. It does float, however, but it works extremely well. I use it for casting crankbaits, for instance. I use it for jig fishing for walleyes, and the reason I use it for both is that many times the stretch factor is very, very important. Otherwise, what happens is the fish are going to come off. And then, two, use green line in most of the fishing conditions. You want to use clear line in ultra water or ultra clear conditions and try to match those kind of conditions, and then you're going to be successful. But line is a big plus factor in catching fish today. There's no question about it whatsoever. Be sure to tune next week right here. Have a great week on the water.
Thanks, Terry. And Terry's back to his regular Thursday time slot next week.
All right. Thanks, John.